All right, well, welcome. We are live here at the Visual Arts Academy and Studio. Actually, we're not at the studio, we're actually in my home right now. And I'm happy and excited to be hosting our live stream tonight. It'll just be me tonight. Normally, it's me and Seth, and we've had Thomas the last couple weeks, but Seth and Thomas couldn't be on today, so I'll be hosting myself. So what I'll be doing over the next 2 hours is working on a page from my comic book called The Silence. And if you were here last week, you saw this page that I was working on here. I'll give you a bit of a tour on that, and then I'm going to actually start a brand new page today, and you'll see the process from beginning to end. I don't think that I'll be able to get it done in 2 hours, but we'll get a start on it. You'll be able to see kind of my process. You'll see the things that I struggle with and things that I'm able, don't wrestle with so much. I never ever show that part, the first part, to anyone. So this is kind of, I guess, an exclusive, if you want to say. Usually you don't see my drawings until they're done or about three-quarters of the way done. And I think it's probably just a personal thing for me that, the very first part of a drawing is usually when you're trying to work through it all, and that's where you see all the mistakes and things like that. So you'll get to see all of my struggles as I try to draw my comic books. So one thing I do want to check real quick, because this is I'm doing this on my own, so I'm the admin here and the host and all that kind of stuff. I just want to make sure that the sound is going on. So let me double check on. I'm doing this on my own. Okay, so cool. We got sound going, which is good. All right. So let me tell you a little bit about what I'm working on today. So this is a page from this page I finished this week. Last week when I started, I was pretty close to being done, and my goal was to get it all the way done in that session. I was not able to get it done, but over this week, over the last couple of days, I was able to tighten everything up and get it where I want as far as the pencils are concerned. So this is from book three. So I'm working on a series of graphic novels slash comic books of a series called The Silence. It's a science fiction movie with the basic premise is, um, you know, it's a world in which science has been outlawed. And you're now in a world in which there's all these different worldviews competing for truth for people to believe and to follow. And so the world is composed of 12 different planets. Each planet represents a different worldview. And so as these characters interact with each other, they travel to each of the planets and they'll kind of live out different worldviews or different philosophies. So that's just kind of the general overview, like world building. The main story is about the two characters are Lazarus and Naomi. They're kind of flawed heroes. Naomi is blind, but she's received these treatments in which she can see, but what she doesn't know is that it's actually those treatments are killing her. And then Lazarus, he was abused as a child and he doesn't have the capacity to breathe on his own, so he has to wear this breathing apparatus. He has like strength and a desire and a heart to save people and to help people, but anytime he uses that strength, it breaks the breathing apparatus and puts his life in danger. So he's wrestling with that. So I love the idea of a flawed hero, someone that's like, above and beyond, but is hindered by some kind of, I don't know, something impediment or something, a physical something that they're wrestling with. So, but yeah, so with this page, I'll just give you a quick tour of the page. So if I zoom out a bit, so that's the finished page. Um, get get this back up here. There we go. Okay. So, here we have the whole page. Let me try to do this without uh, making you guys sick by moving it around too much, and then also not turning it off. So, um, here you can see the composition on this is done very intentionally. You see most of it is in kind of a, see, hold on. Sorry for the, I'm trying to hold it so I don't drop it, but at the same time, keep it steady. It's hard to do with just one hand. So let me see if I can, I'm afraid to, let's try that. There we go. Okay. So yeah, so I did this kind of design on purpose so that your eye will start here in the corner and will follow up here. I'll probably put some type down in this area and throughout the drawing as well. And then basically what you're seeing here are these like Android robot type creations that are wheeling in this patient in through this doorway or corridor. You can see that here at the top. You see some people on the other side kind of wandering around or just staying around. They're very interested in who else is coming in here. There'll be some dialogue between the characters that'll give you a little bit of kind of a picture of what's going on in here. But yeah, this is for the most part done as far as the pencils are concerned. Now I will go back over this with ink, and that will finalize it, and then I'll scan it in and put the type on it as the final part of this. It will not be in color. All the ones that I do in black and white, that's for multiple reasons. I do like black and white as far as aesthetically, the way it looks. Yeah, that, and then also just like practically speaking, it's much cheaper to print in black and white. So that's another reason why I'm doing it. But and then a third reason is like down the line, I could also come back and color them and then come out with another edition. So it's another just little promotional thing, I guess. So anyways, yeah, so last week I was finishing up this area up here with the characters. I was finally able to get them where I want them, and yeah, so I think we're good here. So now I'm gonna start on this is, oh gosh, sorry about that. This is page 4. And so now tonight I'm going to start page 5 from scratch. And so I've got my page here um, nice and fresh and blank. So that's what I'll be doing here. But I did start on the back side of it. I did a little, couple of thumbnails. So I do have the entire book thumbnail sketched out. And I've shown that before. Yeah, so I've shown that before. The thumbnails are basically like just tiny drawings that you go through and you sketch out. And just in case, let me, if you've not been on here before and not seen it, I'll just go ahead and show you so you can see what it looks like. But yeah, so thumbnails are pretty much what they sound like. Let me see, that's upside down. There we go. So yeah, they're just tiny drawings that help you lay out each page and what's going to happen in the page as a whole. And then it also helps you lay out the book. So each one of these is each square, sorry, or each rectangle is a page. So this just helps you lay out the story as a whole. You can see the action, you can see the flow of the story, composition of certain pages and things like that. So yeah, so I'm working on this page right here where you can see the figure here in the middle, and that was my original sketch. And so you see like a main character there, and there's some looks like heads in the background. And what I'm trying to show is after the people in this little thumbnail, after they bring in, and there you can see the original thumbnail for the page I just finished. After they bring in this person in the bed into this area, then the next page you're going to see is that this door is shutting, and there you have one of those robot guards keeping people from coming in and out. But then you're going to see that all these emotions on the people's faces, they realize this door is closing on them. Yeah, they're coming to grips with the fact that they're trapped in this area now, and then you'll see on the next page why that's so significant. So that was my original thumbnail, and then as I was getting ready to actually go in and draw this, I tried a few other thumbnails just to kind of see what I wanted to go with. And so you see the one in the upper left, it's kind of a variation where the robot figure is on the left instead of the right. The faces are in the background, and then you can barely see the door closing, and people kind of like it's like looking through the door. Yeah. And then the one next to it, this one is pretty much the same or a small variation on the original one. I was just trying to get my bearings as far as how big I need to make them. And then I did a double page spread where the character's off to the left and you see across two pages kind of pictures of these faces looking through the glass. But I did like my kind of original idea here. So I think that's the one that I'm going to go with. So that's what I have in my head when I start the drawing. And then I go through a process of lots of scribbling and scratching and trying to get that on paper. So, um, drawing comic books like this, like you really have to have a pretty thorough knowledge of anatomy and proportion and figure drawing. But even so, that it still can be difficult to get the figures exactly where you want. So as I go in to draw this, I'm going to make a lot of mistakes, a lot of sketching and erasing and changing. And whatever I finish with tonight may not even be like the finished product. I may go back in again and change a few things. This is like the other page that I had, the figures up in the top. Like I after I got off camera on last Saturday, through the week, I changed some of the arrangement, some of the figures. I wasn't quite happy with where they were. Which is funny because last week we talked about critique, and one of my students was on, and she loved to see me critique my own work because one of the things we talk about at the Visual Arts Academy is doing critique of each other, and yeah, from an instructor to a student, students to each other, and how tough that can be sometimes. So they thought it was really interesting and fun to see me critique myself. And I tend to be I try to be not harsh but very direct with myself. If there's something on there I don't like, I try to go in and fix it. I don't try to make excuses or think, well, I just don't know how to draw that very well or whatever. If I don't know how to draw it, then I need to work on it until it looks good, until it looks where I want it to be. So anyway, yeah, I've got this blank page here, which for a lot of people I think is very scary to have a blank page. Some people love having a blank page. I don't know. We'll see here. So as I said before, when we open this live stream, and I don't think anyone's ever seen me start from a blank page, so this is kind of a treat for you. This will probably be anticlimactic because you can get on other live streams or other artists that are like professional and a lot better than I am. They'll start with a blank page, and by the end of it, they'll have this amazing masterpiece. Mine may just end up after 2 hours or an hour and 45 minutes at this point of just chicken scratch. So we will see how this goes. I'm a very, very slow artist, and I've told people before, like, don't worry or judge yourself whether you're a good artist or not based on speed. That has nothing to do with it. Unless, of course, you're, a professional and you're working in the industry and you have deadlines, then yeah, speed is a factor, but I'm not. This is a personal project. And yeah, so I don't have a deadline other than, within reason, I'd like to get them out, from time to time. But I don't really pressure myself to get it done by a certain amount of time. I'll give myself like goals. Like at one point, I was thinking to myself, I'm going to do one page a week. But sometimes life, happens. You got to teach classes or run errands or take care of kids or whatever, and it just kind of gets pushed to the side. But yeah, so I hold those kind of time goals very, very loosely. So as I'm thinking through this page, there's a couple different types of pencils I'll use. I typically like to use a mechanical pencil, especially for the details. These are really good because they're really fine point, lets you get things very specific and accurate. But to start off with, I usually just use like a 2H or a 4H regular pencil. So that's what I'm going to use to start with. So yeah, so I'm just gonna double check my thumbnail here, and then go from there. So, yeah, so the way I started was I had kind of wanted the focus to be on this robot face. Now, as far as the robot design, I don't really have one. I guess if I were probably more organized, I would do like a whole sheet of robot faces. Um, but I typically will just go in and just invent one because usually, like, even if you sketch out a bunch of them, like, you're just gonna pick one. So that's just kind of how I do it. I just kind of randomize it. If I like it, then I'll keep it. If I don't, I just keep working with it until I get to a face that I really like. Now, that might not be the best method. There might be better methods. It might be better to have a whole sketchbook filled with designs and then pick from that. From in my case right now, I don't have one. I mean, I have the designs that I have from the original or the page before that I'll just kind of reference in my head. So in this one, I want the face, this robot head to be prominent. Part of the challenge of this too is the spacing, is just to make sure all the information is in there that you want to be in there. And with the thumbnail, sometimes your thumbnail might be a bit out of proportion to what you're drawing. And so then you've got to make changes as you go. So, and that's okay. Let's see here. Yeah, so the window from my original, it's going to be a little bit high. So the top of the window is going to go there. Bottom of the window will cut up here like that. And then I wanted to show kind of the door here. So yeah, so this is a very light pencil. And the reason why I do that is because the lighter the pencil is very easy to fix. If I go in with like a 2B or 4B, all these marks are going to be hard to erase. And I'm not married to these lines, so I want to start with a very light pencil. So like I said, this is a 4H. 4H is really, really light. You could use a 2H. You could even use a HB as long as you do it very lightly. But yeah, so that's what I'm using there. And yeah, so I'm going to just start putting in, kind of reference my thumbnail a little bit here and there. So the faces in the background are going to be slightly smaller than this robot head because they're in the background, obviously. And I want you to kind of contrast this Android robot head, and I kind of want the design to be a bit dark and a bit menacing. And because the expressions on the face in the background are going to be filled with like fear and terror because they're realizing they're getting closed into this thing, and really, and this is a bit of a spoiler, they're gonna get launched into space, and so they can feel the building that they're in or the room that they're in shaking. So their face should really have that bit of terror on them. So so what I like to do for that is I'm gonna put the faces kind of close together. They'll be in pockets. So I've got two right here because I want it to be almost like claustrophobic, like you're looking past this robot into this window of this room of these people, and they're getting not crushed, but they're feeling the closedness of this. So I want the faces to be nice and close together. And then if you'll notice when I do these heads or faces, I start with some basic shapes. I'm just, if you see a little bit closer, I'm just doing ovals, and then I do like a cross so you can see where the eyes and the nose will be. It's hard to see right now because they are so light, but as I continue on, you'll see it a bit better. Let's see here. Over here, I want a face, but I want you to just barely see like one of the eyes like peering around. Kind of the eye right here looking down. The other thing I want to be careful, well, I just want to be careful about the size of these faces. Some of them I do want to be a bit smaller because they're kind of in the background. Um, so I don't want them to all the faces to be absolutely uniform. I do want to give a bit variety. Let's take this out a little bit here. Okay. I'm also gonna put some hands in here too. I'm gonna put I think a hand right here with the pressing up. I think pressing up against the glass. Um, and a lot of these faces, they're gonna be angled like they're looking down. Some towards the bottom are gonna be. I'm sorry, their face will be looking up, but they're looking down at the viewer. All these faces are gonna be looking at the viewer, just to really heighten the tension here. Let's see here. So yeah, so once I kind of get where the faces are going to go, then I'm going to start putting in some details, or not really details, but just indicating where the facial features are going to be. Um, and I usually just do that by putting circles for the mouth and nose, or the eyes and nose, and then just starting to put in some lips or mouths, and a lot of these will probably be kind of like screaming, eyes are like open, eyebrows up, or maybe even frowning, or like scared, or just these different emotions on these faces. Some of the face, like one of these faces in the back, I'm actually going to cut off most of the face. All you can see is the eyes, like peering over the other heads. Really, just give more of that feeling of like being contained, or claustrophobic, I guess you'd say. Take a little drink break here. So yeah, faces in general are very difficult to draw, because we see faces so much that we're so familiar with them. If they're even just a little bit off, they have kind of a fake plastic or cartoon look to them. So I try to be, I really, faces can take a lot of work to get just right. So this face over here, I'm going to really shove in the corner so that the eye, you can barely see the eye. A lot of these, as I said, their head is going to be thrown back and they're going to look down. So I'm putting the eyeball, so then that way you can also see a lot of the white of the eyeball, which really extends that feeling of panic as well. The one thing I'm not super happy with right now how it is the face here in the corner I need to change as far as the position of it. Um, yeah, so we'll see about what I want to do with that. Might change it. Let's see. Yeah, I think I'm gonna do more of it, kind of like at a different angle than the other faces. At when I first put it in, it was kind of the same angle, and so it was looking a little bit boring. I need a little bit more variety here. Let me see. I want him to kind of like be looking down and angry, like almost like he's trying to pull the door open. So like he's really straining to do that. So let's see here. Yeah. Let's see here. My neighbor is outside right now, which I love, but unfortunately, sometimes that makes my dog bark, and I got my little dog here in the room with me. So, hoping that she doesn't bark, because usually that creates a little bit of chaos in our home. So, I've got two of my sons are autistic, and one of them, um, the dog bark really sets him off a bit. As far as yeah, he just really does not like that. So that's part of the reason why I started doing the live here at home. I was doing the live at the studio, but now I'm doing it here at the house. So let's see here. Yeah, I'm doing it here at the house so I could be with them and still be able to do this here with you guys. So, all right. So also with faces, I am probably going to use. I'm probably going to use some reference. Um, yeah, just because they are so difficult sometimes. So, all right, let's see here. One other thing I like to do when I'm drawing, if I get to a point where, whatever I'm drawing, I'm not quite sure if that's what I want, I'll maybe work on a different part of the page. That'll give me a fresh eye. So when I go back to the other part, I can make adjustments as I need. So right now I'm going to go back to this kind of robot head and start figuring out details of what that will look like. All right. The other thing I kind of pay attention to is numbers as well. So I've got on here 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, hold on. I got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 heads. So I like to work in odd numbers. That's not always a hard and fast rule, but I do keep that in mind when I'm drawing. Let's see here. But I may add in 2 more. Put an eye and put a small face in here. Yeah, I'm definitely gonna put a face in here. And then a small face in here. With those, you'll probably just see a little small slice of their face. Got some eyes up here in this corner. I don't know if I like that a whole lot because my eye keeps getting drawn back to that corner. But we'll see as we keep going. So as far as the design for this robot, I think what I'm gonna do is I like this one here. So I might try to reproduce that a bit over here. So let's see. Let's see what I want to do here. A little drink. So, kind of doing a all right, let's see here. I'm kind of making this face up as I go, so we'll see how it turns out. Let's see. But usually when I do like a robot face, I'm thinking in terms of human anatomy. So I do want it to follow the form of the face. Let's see. All right. It's looking a little lopsided, so keep sketching, adding, taking away, that kind of thing. So let's see here. All right. So far what I have is kind of like a dome rounded shape, like the shape of a face or a head. And then I'm adding in just a bit of spiky kind of points around the sides. And then the eyes are kind of slanted. Um, I just wanted to give kind of a bit of a menacing look, as if, if you stood in front of this thing, you would be pretty intimidated. So that's that is what I'm going for here. Let's see. All right. Once I get the main form in, then I'll go back over it with my mechanical pencil to give it some more definition. But for right now, I'm just using this really light 4H pencil. Kind of like that eye. Might go with that. Change that out. Change out the other one a little bit. Maybe make it a little bit more defined. Let's see here. All right. So yeah, if you're just joining along, I am in the process of starting a new page on my graphic novel. This is volume 3 of The Silence. And so right now I'm just kind of designing this kind of robot alien head here. Should be staring down the viewer and protecting us, or protecting the people that are inside, or guarding them from getting out from behind this door that's closing on them. Let's see what else I want to do here. Let's see. Well, this is the thing. As I'm drawing this, I go back and forth because I'm looking at my other designs here, and I'm not sure if this is what I want to go with or not, but we will see. Let's see here. It's also something about like having a blank screen face. It's kind of terrifying, so I might do that as well. Let me see here. If we did that. And yeah, I might do that. Let's see. So yeah, so right now I'm just playing around with what this design is going to look like. I've also kind of I've gone from putting eyes on it to it being a blank screen type face. Um, I think I'm gonna go with the blank screen face. Just something about that impersonal feel about facing a robot with just a blank screen that can be a bit terrifying. So I might go with that. So right now I'm just getting the basic outline and form of what this robot's face is going to look like. Then I'll go back in and start putting in some more details and just add some character to the design. Here's a little bit of an update there. It's a bit lopsided, so I gotta fix some of that, which I will. Sometimes these robot faces are harder than regular faces because you got to get everything really precise. You know, if it's a machine, it's got to look symmetrical, engineered. I guess is a good way of saying it. Well, yeah, if you're just joining right now, it's just me today. Seth and Thomas both had some previous commitments, and so I'm on here working on the next page in my graphic novel. And this is just the first 6 pages are large splash pages, because it's kind of like the intro to the story or to this book. And so they're just large full page shots, some dialogue or some narrative throughout, just to set up the story for the rest of the book. So I'm working on a full page spread here. What you see is this kind of robot guard here in front of these doors that are closing behind them, and you see a window, and in the window you see all these faces that's just filled with terror because they know that they're now trapped in behind this door. So that's setting up the story for the larger idea of how this particular dystopian society deals with death and sickness and things like that. So yeah, that'll get back. You'll have to get all the details in the story itself. So all right, starting to get there. A little bit of that. All right. So now what I'm kind of thinking through is if he's got a kind of a screen face, trying to think, if I should put something on the screen, or should it just be black, or should it be shiny? And then I've got to think about when I ink it. Is that gonna be flat black, or am I gonna put in some kind of details with the shading? Maybe give it a chrome look. Let's see. So All right, let's see here. Some things I like about this and some things I'm not super happy with. So I'm just going to start experimenting a little bit here and there. Kind of like the rounded edges on the front there a bit better. I think that's what I'm going to go with. The thing I don't like about the rounded edges, it kind of takes away from the kind of harsh look, I guess you could say. So, not sure if that's what I want to go with or not. If I did this. Maybe more of a V shape. Kind of like that. Let's see. The other danger of this too is that you can end up changing it so much and you no longer have your original design, which, that could be a good thing, but it could also be like, I don't know what I'm doing with this now. I want to be a little bit careful about that, but I do kind of like that V shape. Gives it kind of like a more harsh look to it. So I might go with that. Yeah, kind of like that. Oh, hey, so JS Vastri says, what are you sketching? So I am working on a page from my graphic novel. This is page 5, and it's a splash page, and what you have is this kind of robot android guard who is standing in front of these doors that have closed, and there are people inside behind these doors, and so they're seeing the doors close on them, and they're filled with terror. So I'm just kind of designing this robot head on the fly a little bit. If you weren't with us last week, this is what the page looked like that I finished. And so they're transporting this person into these doors that you can see up top, and there's some people kind of behind. So I'm kind of using one of the faces from these robots here and just kind of making up the design of the robot on the fly a little bit, but I want it to be kind of a menacing looking robot. So that's why I'm trying to play around with what the face looks like. And I kind of like this V. It's kind of got a harsh look to it. And then I like the kind of blank screen look. It's kind of generic a little bit, but there's something about it that I do like. So yeah, so thanks for the question and thanks for the compliment. Yeah, it's cool. I appreciate that. So JS also asked, what's the story about? So the story is set in outer space. It's a sci-fi story. It's in a place called the Prolegomena system, and that's composed of 12 planets. And the basic thesis of the story is, in this universe, science has been outlawed, and as a result, you have all these other kind of worldviews that come in and compete for authority, compete for people to follow, and to live out this worldview. And so I have two main characters. One is named Lazarus, and the other one is Naomi. And you follow their journey as they go through this galaxy. And there's tons of story to it, multi-layered, but you're basically following their journey through these different planets and the different worldviews in this world in which science has been outlawed. So that's my elevator pitch. Is basically it's a story of two broken heroes, and you're following their journey and trying to answer what is the meaning of life. Yeah, that's the huge big picture explanation of it. And then there's a lot of layers and smaller stories that go along with that as well. So I can actually, if I could do this without do this very carefully, I'll show you behind me. Here is some of the drawings from the previous books, and you can see the main characters here. They're hard to see, but you see the man down there and the woman, that's Lazarus and Naomi. And then you've got two androids. Those are called the guards. And then there's like kind of a team shot, a couple team shots. And then those are some of the pages from book 1. So, yeah, so that's what I'm working on. So, yeah, so I also teach at the Visual Arts Academy, and I'm one of the instructors. I teach drawing 101, 201. I teach charcoal drawing. I teach comic book and character design. Yeah, and so normally when we do these on live streams, it's usually me, it's Seth. Seth is the founder of VAAS, and then Thomas, who's the other founder. But they couldn't be on tonight, so you have to suffer through my commentary and drawing. So yeah, so I'm just sitting here drawing and taking questions. And hey, thank you. JS says the panels look amazing. Thank you so much. Yeah. So right now I'm in the very beginning process of this page, which I never do in front of anyone. So this is the part where you get to see me make all the mistakes. Usually I don't show a page till I'm pretty happy with it, but here you see the process from the very beginning, and you get to see me wrestle with kind of how I draw. And so I do have a pretty good handle, I think, on anatomy and faces and hands and composition, but it's a struggle, and I make a lot of mistakes and a lot of erasing and change a lot of things. So even with this, I've got some you can see the faces kind of sketched in the back, but I'm gonna probably have to use a little bit of reference to get those. Yeah. So where can I read the novel? So the main option is we sell it at the school that I work at. And so I don't know where you are in the world. We're in Louisville, Kentucky, in the United States. So that's the main place. And yeah, so we're trying to get to a place where once I have enough of these, then we can really kind of like push them out and sell them and that kind of thing. But yeah, so that's the main thing right now. And so I'm just trying to get many of the books done. Then that way we can really try to figure out a way to get them published more widespread. I've done some Kickstarters in the past and that kind of thing, but yeah, so yeah, so I have the physical books. You could contact our school. It's the Visual Arts Academy and Studio, and it's in Louisville, Kentucky, and you can find the website is vaaslouisville.com. So VAAS Louisville, which is let me just double check, make sure I'm getting it right, so I don't tell you the wrong thing. Yeah, it's VAASLOUISVILLE.com. So if you get on the website there, you can contact us, and then we can work out a deal where we can send you the books if you're somewhere, outside the States or outside Kentucky. we can work something out with you on that. So yeah, so right now I'm just as I said before, I'm kind of winging it on this design. I'm just playing around with certain elements. Probably if I was more professional or more organized, I probably would have had a bunch of these designs kind of already figured out beforehand. But I kind of like to play around and kind of invent the look as I go along. Um, there's positives and negatives about that, but that's just kind of my process. So yeah. All right. Well, yeah, thank you, JS, for your question and compliments. I really appreciate that. And yeah, if anyone ever has questions or wants to know a little bit about my process or story or whatever, I'm happy to talk about that. Normally, when we're on here together, we talk about all kinds of stuff. We'll talk about art, we'll talk about drawing, we'll talk about painting, we'll talk about culture, we'll talk about art history. But when you just got me on here, then I just kind of talk randomly about things. So let's see here. All right. So yeah, so I can talk a little bit about our classes today. So let's see. Before I got on here this afternoon, I taught a charcoal class. We're in the middle of our 8-week sessions. And so today we were looking at using charcoal powder and vine charcoal. And our subject was we were recreating or copying from a master painting. And so all the students had their painting that they chose. I gave them a stack of different paintings, mainly from Turner and Monet, just because their painting style is a bit looser, a bit obviously impressionistic, and that's I don't want to say easier, but that kind of lends itself to charcoal because you can be very free and expressive with that. So yeah, so that was a lot of fun. I worked on a Monet painting of a woman and a parasol, I think is what it's called. And it's a portrait of a woman and a child, and she's holding an umbrella. And it's like a nice sunny day. And so I was trying to recreate that using charcoal. And it was very challenging. It's been a while since I've drawn or painted from a copying a master painting. But it's really, really helpful to do because especially if you're trying to recreate one medium with a different medium, that can be very challenging. So I was trying to recreate um, an oil painting using charcoal. So I'm not quite done with it. We spent about an hour and a half on that, and I got a good bit done. I got kind of where the woman is and kind of some of the lighting. So now I have to go back and probably spend another classroom time just figuring out the details on it, or cleaning it up a bit. So kind of happy with this design. There's still bits and pieces that I don't know, like I don't know if I kind of like what I'm doing here. So I might just go straight back. Let's see what that looks like. Yeah, I might do that instead. So yeah, so that's Saturdays. I teach charcoal class, and then the rest of the week, Monday, I have drawing 101 with adults, and then I have a character design class with teens. And then Thursday, I have another drawing 101 with teens. And then Fridays, I have a drawing 201. Let's see. JS says the design gives a vibe mix of Halo and the Tron movies. Thank you very much. So we've talked about this before in these videos. One of my favorite movies is Tron, and so I definitely have some influence from that. I've not really played Halo, so I haven't seen a ton of. I've seen some of the design, but I've not really played it, so I wouldn't consider that a direct influence on my drawing, but definitely Tron, definitely movies like oh gosh, all of a sudden my mind went blank. What's the movie? Blade Runner. Yeah, gosh. I don't know why I couldn't remember that. But yeah, Blade Runner, Tron. Yeah, I love the look of those. I mean, obviously Star Wars and those those kind of movies, 2001. Yeah, so yeah, definitely has that influence. So, but I suppose it probably has a little touch of Daft Punk on it too. So, Darnell Shields, thank you so much. I appreciate the compliment. He says it looks cool. I appreciate that. Yeah. So, I'm just kind of in the early sketches of this page. And as I said before, when I first got on here, I very rarely will start a page in front of people because then you can see all the mistakes and everything that you really wrestle with. So I'm just kind of making up this design as it goes. I showed this before, but this is the page that I just finished. I was working on this last week, and so you can see all the designs there. So this is what it'll eventually look like um, when I get to the final pencils. So I'm trying to take one of these faces. I'm kind of looking at this face right there, and some of that, and kind of mashing that together to make this face here. I like the idea of just like a black with some lines in there, just to give it kind of a, yeah, I don't want to say evil, but kind of a dark look to it, really kind of intimidating type look to it. So, oh, thank you, Darnell. Reminds me of Cyberpunk 2077. Thank you so much. Yeah, I love sci-fi stuff. I don't have a ton of sci-fi stuff, but I definitely love the movies and that kind of thing. And this story is obviously set in a sci-fi universe. So, JS says Daft Punk also did the complete album for Tron. Yes, one of my favorite soundtracks. I mean, I love listening to that. If I wasn't on here live, I'd probably be listening to it right now while I'm drawing, or the Blade Runner soundtrack, the newest one, Blade Runner 2049 or whatever it is. Yeah, I love that soundtrack as well. I love Interstellar soundtrack is really good. So that, that's got a really kind of futuristic sound. The Hans Zimmer kind of organ, really dark and heavy. So yeah, but yeah, so appreciate it. Thank you guys for commenting and everything. It's really super encouraging. I appreciate you guys joining with us. So yeah, if you've never watched us before, so this channel is for the Visual Arts Academy and Studio. We're located in Louisville, Kentucky. And my name is Chad. I'm one of the instructors. And normally we have me and Seth. Seth is one of the co-founders of our academy, and then Thomas has been getting on as well. He's the other co-founder. So they had some previous engagements. So tonight I am sitting on here just doing some drawing and working on this page. And my goal for the upcoming Saturdays, we try to do this every Saturday from 6 to 8, and I'm going to be working on pages from my book and trying to get a big chunk of that completed over the coming weeks and months. And yeah, so sometimes we'll switch it up. I've got some larger drawings that I'm working on at the academy right now. I'm at my home in my office, but at the academy, I've got a studio there, and I've got some larger pencil drawings that sometimes I'll work on those. But for right now, over the next couple of weeks, I'll be working here from home on these live events, and I'll be working on these comic book pages. So the other thing I'm thinking about as I'm kind of designing this, it's a balance because I do want it to be detailed and complex, but there is something nice about simplicity of the design. Um, yeah, because I really want you to be faced with this like almost impersonal robot, and he's holding a gun too. Like I haven't got to that part yet, so he's staring right at the viewer. Is like very impersonal. You don't know what he's going to do, and he's armed on top of that. So that's it's a bit intimidating for sure. Hey Matt, there he is. Have you seen Foundation on Apple TV Plus? It's a great sci-fi show. Man, yeah, I appreciate that. We haven't just subscribed to Apple TV Plus. We've got so many other subscriptions like Netflix and Hulu and Disney Plus, and those are the main ones right now. We pay so much for all of that I'm just hesitant to start any other subscriptions. But yeah, I'd love to check it out at some point. Hopefully they'll switch over and open it up so that other platforms can show it. Um, but yeah, I've seen a couple ads for some different shows that I'm like, oh man, I wish I had, whether it's like whether they got Paramount or Peacock or whatever, but we're trying to limit how much we spend on all the subscription services. So JS says, hope the world building and background art is as good as the character designs because it is a major element of successful sci-fi franchises. Yes, thank you. So, one of the things I love about this story that I'm really trying to do is exactly that, is that the world building is complex. Not like super complex where it's overwhelming, but complex enough that there's some depth to it. So, I always think of when it comes to world building, I always think of like someone like J.R.R. Tolkien, who, you know, even went down to designing his own language and the grammar rules to it, and like got into all the like details of things that you won't even see in the story just to really enhance the world building. And so I'm trying to do something similar with to that with this, where there's multiple characters, multiple worlds, all built within this larger kind of galaxy or universe or whatever you would like, however you want to say that. So yeah, and I have it all built out. I think I have a picture of it actually. Let me see if I've got. Yeah, so here is this is the first book here. So I did the covers in color. That's the second book. And so in the book I do include let's see if I can find it in this one. Yeah, so there's a whole here's the galaxy or their little universe, and I've got all the planets listed and kind of the worldview that each one of those planets represents. And then this is the main storyline, so it's like built like a symphony. So it's got four movements, and yeah, so it goes like movement one is sonata, adagio, scherzo, and rondo. I'm not a musician, so I could be like totally butchering all that and not really understanding how a symphony works. But yeah, so it goes from like the first movement is the introduction, and then this frustration, which is building this hope, but disillusionment on top of that. And then there's this crisis in the third movement, and then resolution. So it follows the basic story arc that you would see in most stories, but there's also, you know, the hero's journey. You're following these two main characters, which I think I have some sketches of them in here too. Well, I'll show you one of the pages. You can see, yeah. So there's the two main characters. There's Lazarus and there's Naomi, and you're following their journey as they're wrestling with their own personal issues, but then also the disillusionment they're facing on this planet. Because the planet that they're on right now it represents dystopia or utopia dystopia, and they're realizing that the utopia that they've been fed since they were kids is not coming true. So I know that kind of trope is a little bit overused, but I'm just using that to launch the story. So once they get off planet, which will happen at the end of this book that I'm working on, book 3, they'll get to another planet, and then they'll be able to explore some more kind of unique storylines and conflicts and things like that. So that's what I'm hoping, that the worldview or the world building on this will be sophisticated enough to draw people in and really get involved in the story. And that's what I'm trying to. Hey, Ryan McMahon says, do you have a team or is the production all solo? Well, the production is all solo. So I write the books and I draw them, I ink them, and then in the case of the covers, I do color the covers, but the rest, as you can see on the inside, is all is black and white. And so I do like the look of black and white. I think it has, especially for the tone of this story, I think it really matches kind of the environment or the what do I want to say, the feel of the story that I'm trying to go for. So book two is a little more literary. So I'm trying to do something a little bit different with each book just to make it interesting. So for the first book is straightforward comic book style. The second book, I have a little bit more like I put in there like the timeline of the world. I give a bit of a background for the first like several pages. There's a map of the world that they're on right now, and then I've got some regular pages, but then I have like a commentary on this side. So on this side, on these pages, I'm talking about like death and how death affects us and that kind of thing, because on this planet they're pretending like there is no death. And so yeah, so you'll see the pages there, and then once you get past that, then in part 2 turns into more like traditional comic book kind of design. And so the second part is, yeah, just straightforward comic book pages. But then the third part gets back into more of like, I do a splash page, and then it's actually a poem. Not much of a poet, but I tried my hand at some poetry. And so you can see there's some more pages in poetry there. And I use the poems to kind of build. It's more of that world building, because then at the end, I go through and I give you the interpretation of the poem, and you can kind of see what the lines mean and all that kind of stuff. So yeah, so book three, um, yeah, book three will continue that. It'll be more traditional comic book format. I just, yeah, I don't want to overwhelm with too much like narrative, which book two is heavy with narrative. So I think book three, I want to go back to more comic book style, do some more things that are a bit more inventive, but not too much. And then maybe book four, I'll kind of do something a little bit different and just kind of make it interesting in each episode. VFX time. Welcome back. Yeah, am I bragging now? Well, I don't have Seth here, so I'm allowed to say whatever I want. It's kind of like that. Oh man, what's the name of the movie? Where they overtake the pirates overtake the ship. It's got Tom Hanks in it, and he's like, "Look at me now. I am the captain now." Yeah, that's who I am right now. I'm the captain of this show right now, so I get to say whatever I want. So, but anyways, yeah, I was just giving a preview of the books, and yeah, those are the first two books, and then I'm working on book three right now, and I'm hoping over the next several weeks and months that that's what I'm going to mainly work on is my pencils, and I'll probably do some inking work on here. So yeah, let's see. VFX time. He says those are your books. Yeah, you made them. No way. I did make them. Yeah, it took me a while, but I did make them. Jayish says, have you seen or heard of Neon Genesis Evangelion? I think that's how you say it. I've seen, I think, I want to say maybe on Netflix or Prime, an Evangelion, but I've not watched it. So no, I'm not super familiar with that. Ryan McMahon says, that's awesome. Would you like a team, or do you find solo work more satisfying? I've always respected mangas and comic creators because you're the director and artist of your own project. Is that mangakas? I don't know, I'm not sure what that is, but comic creators because you're the director and artist of your own project. Yeah, so I think there's positives and negatives to both, right? So if you're in a team, the positive of that is there's collaboration, which is really, really good, because then you can come up with new ideas. The downside of working with a collaboration is I this is my idea, and so it's hard for me if I'm coming to the table with my idea for someone else to be like, no, I don't like that idea, or let's change it, and then it's no longer my idea. Maybe that's just me and being proud or arrogant or whatever, and just wanting creative control. But I do like the idea of having creative control, and there is a weakness to that in the sense that I'm responsible for the whole thing, and so there is something that other artists can bring to the table that I think can really contribute to a work and make it even better sometimes. But I also think sometimes if you're working with it, you have to be really selective with who you work with, because the person you work with, you've really got to trust. You've got to be on the same page. You've got to buy into the same vision. And if you're both coming in with your own ideas about a certain story, especially like this story, this is a story I've been thinking about working on for years. So for me to then just invite someone else into it, I would be like super, super protective because of all the things that I've thought about through this story and want to see happen with the story. So, but I would say having a team also makes getting the books out faster, because then that way you've got, a person writing it, person drawing it, someone else could come through and ink these, someone else could draw them. But then the downside of that is I'd have to pay them, and I don't make any money doing this, so I don't have the money to do that. So yeah, it's just, preference. For me, I like solo. I like working solo, but that's just my preference. Other people like teams. VFX times, I did not know of these books. Yeah, so that's a big part of what I do. So like I said before, I teach at the academy. So I teach drawing, comic book, character design, charcoal, those kind of things. But I also have my own projects going on. So I've got some large drawings that I'm working on, mainly at the academy. So I've got a large 6-foot drawing which I've worked on this live stream before. It's a apocalyptic landscape. It's got some religious and philosophical themes in it. I've got a I've got a large, like 6 foot drawing of my wife and I as Adam and Eve. That's here at the house. It's out in the garage that I'm working on. And then I'm working through Charles Bark has a book. It's from the, I want to say 19th century, but it's an old drawing manual that I'm working through and drawing the plates from that because I'm also having my students draw that. And so I've really been enjoying working on that. And then I'm working on this book as well. And I've got some other projects going on too. So I really enjoy the fact that I'm able to do this on Saturdays because now I have time set aside just for this project. So I'd like to get back to this and get this worked on throughout this year. So are they out already? So the books, I was telling JS that the best way to get the books is to contact our school, and then we can work out a way to send them to you. Because there's not really, I mean, I have them at my house and all that kind of stuff, but I'd much rather you just do it through the school. And so that way we can work out payment and, you know, sending them off and that kind of thing. So Ryan McMahon says, I get that. If you do entrust your work to others, they have to be like-minded. I guess I should show these comments because these are really good. So let's see. It says, yeah, it says, I get that. If you do entrust your work to others, they have to be like-minded. If they aren't, you risk a lot of division or revision. Exactly. Like, I've got a very set, like, picture or direction that I want this to go in. And there are things where I'll sit there and I think about what'll happen on like a different planet in the storyline. I think of other characters that they're going to interact with, all set within the larger kind of framework of the story. And I feel like if you give that to someone else who doesn't have the same kind of view as you, it's exactly, yeah, you're going to get into create a lot of creative conflict. Yeah, and you have to give up a lot because the reality is you're working with someone else. They're coming to the table with ideas too. So it's better, I think, if you're going into a project that you agree up front, hey, we're going to work on this together. It's going to be a collaboration, right? Then that way you both know there's some give and take. Not every idea that you're throwing on the table is going to be used. But for this, I mean, this is an idea I started on my own, so I'm protective of it. And even like the inking and the coloring, like I feel like inking is a art in and of itself, and I enjoy the inking part, so I want to be the person to ink it. Now this would be a lot faster if someone else did that, but I actually enjoy the inking part. So let's see. JS says Neon Genesis Evangelion is also a sci-fi anime set around similar narrative as your novels, focusing more on philosophical themes, Bible references, and character psyches. Yeah, I mean, that sounds amazing. So I probably have to check that out because I think I would really love that. Like that's why my favorite movies are all sci-fi movies. Like 2001 is amazing. It's super slow and super hard to watch, and it's one of those you only watch like once every couple of years. But like it's just got so many layers, especially when you get to the end, and yeah, it's just so amazing because of all the philosophical themes in it. Same with uh, Blade Runner. I love Blade Runner. Both versions. The newer version I love better just because of the look of it. Tron is amazing. The whole idea of being inside this other kind of AI world now. Now it's more realistic than ever, but yeah, I'd love the look of it. I'm excited for the third movie that they're working on right now. I'm a little hesitant because they've got some bigger names in it. So sometimes when Hollywood gets their hands on things, they can get too kind of surface. It'll become too superficial. So I'm not really looking forward to that. But yeah, I love those movies. Interstellar, I love. I didn't really love their conclusion at the end, but everything else I thought was amazing. So yeah, should definitely check it out, both the anime series and the movies. Yeah, I will definitely. So thank you so much. I appreciate that suggestion. And then VFX Time says, how many books will there be? I know you already said 3. Yeah, so when I first started writing this, I thought, man, I had this like idealistic vision that I would be able to do one a year. And that's still possible. If I could do these on Saturdays, I could definitely do a whole book in a year. And that's how long the first 2 books, they literally took a year each to make. Um, I was thinking I could do one a year, and I forget what I had. I had like 10 books per or 10. yeah, 10 volumes per movement. So it was like 40 books. So I thought about that a couple years ago. So I was like in my early 40s, and I thought if I did a book a year, 40 books, I'd be in my 80s at that point. I think I'd be able to do that. I don't know. Maybe my hands would be a little bit shaky when I'm in my 70s, but might be able to pull that off. But yeah, there's no way I'm going to be able to do that. But I don't know. We'll see. Like, there's definitely enough story and enough characters, enough things that you could do with this to really kind of launch a huge thing. But I definitely want them to go to all 12 planets. So maybe a more realistic goal would be maybe like at least maybe 20, because each planet, there's 12 planets. You could do a book per planet. So that's 12, and there's already three out, so that's 15. They haven't even at the end of this one, they get off planet. So yeah, so 15 plus give or take a few extras in there. So yeah, if I could do 20, I think that would be amazing. I mean, I still think that's a pretty high goal, but like I said, if I can do this consistently, I might be able to pull that off. But I also know myself, and one of the things that I do struggle with is consistency over time. So like I'll tend to hyperfixate on things. So I'll like get into a project, really love it, work on it a lot, and then I'll not get bored with it, but like want some variety, and then I'll work on another project for a little bit. So it is hard for me to stick to one thing for a long period of time, but I would love to do something like that. So. Matt says, are any of them going to be in color? So I thought about re-releasing in the future once I get a bunch of these done, like re-releasing a couple in color. I think that would be really cool. It'd be kind of a fun little like sales tactic too, but I'm not really about that life. But I think it would be cool maybe to do one or two in color in the future just to see what they look like. But like I said before, the practicality of black and white is so much cheaper to reproduce them. So the covers will definitely be in color in each volume. So these are, I know I consider these volumes like volume one and two, but like the 10 or 12 that'll be in this one, well, that's what I was like. There's gonna be 10 times 4 is 40, but if I made it a little bit more realistic, for each movement in the story, there's four movements that'd be a different color. So these be red, maybe the next ones would be blue, maybe the next ones would be green. I don't know. I haven't got to that point yet. So let's see. VFX says, I understand it's a futuristic setting. What kind of story is it? So I don't know. I guess the best way to say what kind of story it is a philosophical story exploring the meaning of life. And I know I said that with the characters. That's kind of their thesis is like the characters themselves are trying to explore the meaning of life. But I think that's kind of the point of the whole thing as a reader, that as you're reading it, you're interacting with these different worldviews. So, for example, I have in one of here, I think I had it in this one. I'll just give you a quick rundown. So, like, yeah, so the 12 planets, so it's called the prolegomenon system, and the prolegomenon in philosophy, prolegomena is basically the first thing you do before you do philosophy. It's like kind of unpacking like how you treat like language and truth and logic and those kind of things. So I thought that was a really cool name for like a galaxy, the prolegomenon system. So that's why I went with that. But it's also representative of how when the characters interact in these different planets, they're wrestling with the conclusions of these different worldviews. And the 12 planets are all named after the tribes of Israel in the Bible, but they also represent a different worldview. So, for example, you've got Reuben. Reuben's worldview is deism, and so they're the first established colony. They're preeminent in dignity and power. But they're unstable and immoral. So they have this long history, starting with a generic monotheism and a remnants of a creation story. And so when the characters go to that, they'll interact with a world that is run by, or not run, but governed by a deistic worldview. So then once they move off that planet, then number two is Simeon, and then number three is Levi. And so Simeon is a atheistic culture, and Levi is a secular culture. Then from there, they go to planet four, is Judah. That's monotheism. So that's more of a biblical worldview. Then planet 5 is where is 5? Oh, Zebulon, which is pantheism. It's a haven for spaceships and travel, an open society devoted to the newest ideas. And they've got, and each planet has like different moons. So this one has 2 moons. One of the moon represents New Age, one of them spiritualism. So you could do like stories where they go to Zebulon, and then they go off on one of the moons and they kind of interact there. Uh, Number 6 is where is number 6? Issachar. That's the one they're on right now. That's the where they open up the stories on Issachar, and that's a utopia, dystopian worldview. Then they go to 7 is Dan, and that's dualism. It's a judgmental and self-righteous society that charges other societies to uphold its own standards of morality. They have a moon that has a concentration camp. 8 is Gad, and that's existentialism. It's a dark and depressed place, constantly raided by foreign peoples, and they have a moon that's representative of nihilism. Then they go to Asher, which is naturalism. So they're rich in provision, luxury, delicacy. They enjoy the appearance of success based on scientific law, even though science has been outlawed. And they have a planet that represents scientism and one that represents historicism. And then Naphtali is hedonism. Where is 11? Is Joseph, and that's polytheism. And then Benjamin is postmodernism. So that's just a basic kind of rundown. And so, yeah, so they're exploring all these different kind of worldviews and that kind of thing. So, Ryan says, what are some novels you drew inspiration from for your comics? So when I first started getting into drawing, especially with comic books, I loved like Jim Lee. I loved all the Image books, not for the stories, but just for the art. I mean, those guys blew me away. I was like, when I saw that, I was like, wow, that you can do that with comic book drawing. Like it was just amazing to see. Now I really love, I've got over here. So this is one of my favorite artists right now. It's Jeremy Opeña. There you go. There's the deluxe edition of Seven to Eternity. I've not read this all the way through, but I have looked at all the art because his drawing is absolutely incredible. He is actually now my favorite beyond Jim Lee. I think, in my opinion, I love Jim Lee, but his stuff is amazing. Jim Lee has a, I hate to sound like this. I sound like a cranky old man, but like he has a lot of repetitive, like I just think to myself, like, how many more Batmans is he going to do? Like the foreboding, like standing on the edge of a building, really cool with rain in the background. I love it 100%. But Jeremy Opeña is, I think, a lot more fresh and more creative. I've got, here's another one that I haven't read yet, but it is gorgeous. Is We Only Find Them When They're Dead. Some of the artwork on this in this book is so incredible, but almost some of it's overly detailed to where it's hard to see kind of what the panels are, what the art is in there. But this is absolutely amazing. Excuse me. So yeah, I mean, those are the two main ones that like I like to be inspired by, but I've got some downstairs that I can't think of off the top of my head, to be honest with you. Down in my basement, I've got some graphic novels down there. Like dang it, my mind is going blank. East of West. Yeah, I love that one. Um yeah, just a lot of the Image books are some of the newer sci-fi Image books are really, really cool. But I don't read a whole lot of the books. I like them for the art and I like them for the concept. So I'll look at their like sketchbooks, I'll look at their concept designs and things like that. There's another one, all of a sudden, Tokyo Ghost. That one's amazing looking. I forget the name of that artist, but he's pretty incredible. So books like that. And then I love like literary books like 1984, Animal Farm. I've got behind me are all my dystopian books that I really like. I don't know if you can, yeah, you can see. I'm kind of in the middle of that one. I haven't read that one a little bit. I've got about halfway through that one, but that one is what inspired 1984. I've got behind there The Trial by Franz Kafka. Franz Kafka is amazing. Fahrenheit 451. Yeah, 1984. Ellison is really good. High Rise by J.G. Ballard. And of course, you can't see it, but Dune. I love Dune. When we were talking about movies before, I had mentioned Tron and Blade Runner, but Dune, the books, I've read through the first three. First one is, I love it. Absolutely love it. Just amazing. So definitely Dune is a huge inspiration for what I'm doing there, because that with Dune, there's a lot more. There's a lot of world building there, a lot of layers to the story, and if you do a little bit of research, you realize Star Wars was pretty much based on Dune, which I just, when I found that out, I was like, and then I started to see it. You can't unsee it. And you're just like, oh my gosh, that was all ripped off from Dune. It's crazy. So anyway, either way. All right. So, and then VFX Time says, have you made any research to make the solar system? I don't know if there's only one or more. Have you made any research to make the solar system? Not quite sure your question there. Like, have I done research on other solar systems? Or I don't know if there's only one or more. Like, if I've looked at other solar systems, like in the actual universe, I have not. So mine's not really concerned with it being like accurate to a real solar system. Mine's more like, I really like the idea, the ideas behind it and the worldview of each planet and that kind of thing. So yeah, man, this is an awesome conversation. Thank you guys for checking in and yeah, asking the questions. I am gonna get to draw a little bit, so if you put a question on here and I miss it, I'll be looking over. I apologize, but I've got about 10 more minutes. And I'll be drawing, yeah, for about 10 more minutes, and then yeah, we'll do that. We do this, like I said, we do this every Saturday, and I usually have some other. This was an interview. That's what VFX just said. This was yeah. Thank you. That's what it felt like. But you know what? I love it. It was awesome. Sometimes when you do this by yourself, it can be a little bit difficult because you're sitting there drawing and you can narrate only so much, and then you get to a point where you're just like, okay, how many more times do I need to say, okay, this is what I'm thinking right here, and so I always joke with Seth, and if you've seen our shows and other Saturdays, Seth's personality is much different than mine. He's very outgoing, very like encouraging, loud, and everything, and I'm much more subdued and monotone. And so I always joke with him, like if I ever have to do these by myself, like they're probably a bit more boring than when he's on, because he's a lot more like what I don't know what's the word I want to say, more expressive, I guess is a better way of saying it. So yeah, so I get on here and I'm drawing, and after a while I just don't know what else to say, so I just sit here and draw. And it was kind of happening. I was just kind of drawing. I looked over, and all of a sudden I got a bunch of questions. So thank you all very much. That was awesome. So, but yeah, I'm gonna get back to this design. So, like I said before, I'm just kind of playing around with this design. I don't have anything really in my head, but every time I look back at it, I kind of evaluate what do I like and what I don't like. I don't know that I like these lines in here. I might get rid of them. I might keep them. I don't know, but there is something I like about a simplicity to this design. I don't know. We'll see. But yeah, so we'll go. It's funny when you're kind of working on these and trying to come up with a design, you have to get to a point where you just settle on something, because you could sit here and change it here and there and change it again and change it again and change it again. And I guess there's something to be said about that, because eventually you can get to a better idea, but sometimes you just have to make a decision, because like it's not the end of the world. This design is not set in stone. You can always come up with a different design later. You can change the design. You could change the story so he gets shot in the face and you have to make a new mask, whatever. It's not like all, life or death to get this right. I mean, I do want it to look good. I want when someone looks at it like, oh man, that mask looks amazing. But at the same time, I'm not super worried about it being, um, in, I don't know, perfect or whatever. But what I might do is put some, make this kind of, do the kind of generic like wiring underneath that. I don't know. We'll see. See if I like that. Yeah, I think I like that. So I'll probably work on this throughout the week too. So then when you come back next week, um, I'll hopefully have this design settled. I'll settle on this design, what it's going to look like, and kind of have it shaded in a little bit more refined. So then you'll see what it's going to look like when I go to ink it. Um, and then my next challenge after that is getting these faces in the background to look good. So, but yeah, I got about 5 more minutes here, and then we're gonna call it a night. But thank you all for joining here. If you've not subscribed to our channel, we'd love for you to subscribe and do all the things. You know how it is. You're trying to get your channel to grow a little bit. You gotta make the appeal. Ryan says, do you work digitally as well? Let me put that up here. Do you work digitally as well? I just got a drawing pad and connected it to my monitor. Feels nice, but gonna take a while to get used to it. Yeah, so I do have I've got one of these Wacom or Wacom, or I don't even know how to say it, Wacom tablets. Um, I don't like digital. I've tried digital. I mean, there's some really good advantages to digital as far as like so easy to correct things, so easy to you don't even need the pencil and ink process. You could just go in with the inks and just finish off a drawing. That part of it is pretty amazing. It speeds up the process. But I'm an old man and I like the old school way of doing things, so I like the feel of drawing on paper. Drawing on glass drives me crazy. I hate the smoothness of it for whatever reason. I just like the texture of the paper. It's kind of like reading books. Like I'd much rather have a physical book in my hand than reading it on a screen. It's just, I don't know, I'm just a cranky old man, I guess. But yeah, I do prefer that. But like I said, there are some advantages. I do like coloring digitally, 100%. It's so much nicer. That is the one thing I would say. When I do the covers for these, I do scan in the inks and I do color on digitally. It's a so much easier. But it does take a while, and I find for myself that my drawing digitally looks different than when I draw with pencil. That's not every artist. I've seen artists that can draw digitally and it looks just like they draw on paper. And that's everyone has their own process. So I would say if you get into digital and it works really great and you love it, go with it, man. Just do it. Um, yeah. The other thing I found too is if I have some digital files that, if you don't update the program, you can lose. And so you just have to be careful about that. Whereas if it's physical, of course, you could also make the argument that, if your house catches on fire, then all your physical is gone. So either way, yeah, I just don't like to keep track of all the files and everything. I'd much rather just have sketch pads and stuff. I know where all that is. So that's just my opinion. Everyone's different, but yeah, I like traditional instead. So I've got about 2 more minutes, but as I said, I'll just give you a kind of an overview of this page, how far I've gotten. So I went from nothing to this, which, as I said, I'm pretty slow. Plus, I was chatting it up with you guys, which I really appreciate. Love the conversation. So thank you all very much. But yeah, I've got this robot guy kind of looking directly at you, and then in the back, there's going to be some of these characters that are getting trapped behind this closing door, and they're all panicking. Um, so hopefully this week I'll definitely get this face, I think, done, and then I'll start working in on the other faces, getting them anatomically correct, make sure that they look real, and yeah. So please definitely check us out next week. As I said in this final minute, I'll be working on this week, and this is page 5 of the Silence Book 3. And follow along each week as I work on these pages, and hopefully over the next coming months, we'll get this book on its way. I'll do fresh fresh pages from blank like I did today. I'll do some work in the middle, like for example, I'll come back with this page and finish it up, and then I'll do some ink work as well. And then once we get closer to the end, I'll also probably do some of the lettering and all the whole process of putting this book together. So it is 8 o'clock. I am going to get off here. VFX time. Amazing, Chad. Thank you so much. See you next week. Thanks for tuning in as always. We love that you have been super consistent. Always give us some good comments and compliments. Definitely give Seth a hard time next time. Talk about how much better the show was when I did it by myself without him. Just give him a hard time for me. Just kidding, of course. He's always amazing. So yeah, really appreciate it, guys. Yeah, awesome time. Thank you all. Check us out. My name is Chad. I'm with the Visual Arts Academy and Studio here in Louisville, Kentucky. And like I said, we do this every Saturday. Thank you all, Ryan. Thank you, Ryan. Thank you, VFX Time. And yeah, thank you for your passion on this. Thank you, Matt. Thank you, Jayesh, for all the good conversation. And we'll see you all next week.